Hello, this is Teacher Sarah from Crooked Pals. Welcome to another GED RLA screencast. The topic of this lesson is figurative language. If you find this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. It helps us help more people like you. Alright. And another popular German expression is Ich glaube, ich spinne, which means literally, I think I spider. But actually, to them, it means, or to Germans, or people who speak German, I think I'm going crazy. And another funny expression that I found in France is j'ai un cafard, which means I have a cockroach, if you translate it literally, but if you have it be told to you by a French speaker, then you would know that it actually means that it's an expression which means that I am afraid or I'm nervous. Right. Moving on. What makes up a cliche or an idiom though? What is figurative language? When do we use it? Are there different types of figurative language? Yes, there are. One of them is alliteration. It is the repetition of usually initial consonant sounds in two or more neighboring words or syllables. For example, here, the wild and woolly walrus waits and wonders when we'll walk by. So the W's here is an alliteration. They are repeated sounds or syllables that are put together. So normally things like tongue twisters are alliteration, like seashells by the seashore, Peter Piper picked a peck of pickled peppers, and others. Right. What about assonance? A resemblance of sound in words or syllables like holy and stony and fleet, feet, sweet by sleeping geese, which you'll normally find in poems because they rhyme. Next, hyperbole. A hyperbole is a big exaggeration and usually is meant with humor, or to show that something is super serious. For example, one example is mile-high ice cream cones, which is to show that something is bigger than a regular ice cream, which is probably a lot larger than regular ice cream that you would get from McDonald's. And she's going to kill me if she finds out, which is hopefully is figurative and not literal. And I just died laughing, which is something that I actually use. You're killing me right now. Yeah. Moving on. Another example is understatement, which is the direct opposite of hyperbole. Understatement is a presentation of something as being smaller, worse, or less important than it actually is. For example, can I see you for a second? And you're like, if your boss calls you out and from your office or something, or your teacher calls you and says, can I see you for a second? You know that you're not going to actually he's not going to actually, or she is not just going to actually blink and say, that's 1 second, that's that. Go back to your room or go back to your class. And then you've got doctors telling you it's going to hurt just a little bit when they give you an injection, but actually it doesn't. Or sometimes another expression being used about that is it's just like a little ant bite. And then it happens, or they do it to you, and then it actually does feel like an ant bite, but like a fire ant, which is really bad. Another expression that this also reminds me of siblings or friends who ask you to get a bite of your burger or your burrito or something that you're eating, and then you say, okay, but just like one bite, and they say, I promise just one bite, and then it's the biggest bite ever. Anyway, maybe that's just my brother. Moving on. Metaphor. A metaphor is when you compare two things by using one kind of object or using in place of another to suggest the likeness between them. For example, her hair was silk. This classroom is a zoo. What a chicken. What a chicken. Or I'm on fire. So you use it, they kind of have to be something that are not directly related to each other, like how people would say her heart is an icebox, something like that, without using the word like and as. You are comparing it, but without using the word like and as, And we're going to talk about what type is that when you use like an S. Onomatopoeia is naming a thing or an action by imitating the sound associated with it, like buzz, hiss, roar, and woof. So you have, sometimes you say that I am buzzing right now. That means you're busy. I'm busy right now because bees are usually busy. That's what they say, busy as a bee, right? And when someone is quite angry at you and you say, she hissed at me, or my mom hissed at me, right? You usually see that in novels or in poems and stuff because they tend to be more colorful, unlike informational texts and non-fictional texts. Anywho, roar and woof, we've heard that. Personification is when you give something that is inhuman human qualities. For example, the stuffed bear smiled as the little boy hugged him close, or at least I hope that is a personification and not like an Annabelle situation. Or maybe I'd accept a Toy Story situation, at least not an Annabelle situation. The moonlight dance on the river, the streets are calling me is another example. So you're giving something that has no life an attribute of a person or a thing that does have a life. I read a poem last week about something like the water of the storm was so strong that it crawled up the windows of the lighthouse and wiped it out like a thief. There you go. And simile is what I was talking about earlier, which is kind of like a metaphor, but instead you don't make the comparison, the comparison directly as you would in a metaphor, but you would use the word like or as. It is a figure of speech comparing two unlike things that is often introduced by like or as. However, this is commonly done, and it's a mistake when it is done, that when you make it like it, there has to be a comparison made. It's not a simile when you say I like pizza or I like the moon. It has to be the moon is like a pizza, or the sun is like a yellow ball of fire in the sky. There you go. There has to be a comparison. It can't be used as a verb, like when you say I like pizza, I like green, I like blue, etc., etc. I like you, which I do. All right. Synecdoche. Synecdoche is a part of something substituted for the whole. An example of that to make more sense is when you say check out my new wheels, but actually you're not just telling someone to check out the wheels, but you're actually saying to check out your car. You've got a new car and you want someone to check it out or look at it, and you don't expect them to actually just look at the wheels, but the whole car. Another expression is wanna hang out at my crib. I don't actually know where this comes from, but crib, I'm guessing, is a crib that a baby sleeps on, like a cot, and that belongs in a house, and crib here actually means house. The same way that if I'm missing my glasses, I say, where are my glasses? But we all know that glasses are not just made of glass. Sometimes it's made of plastic, and you would still call it glasses instead of plastics. And then it has a frame, which is usually plastic or aluminum or whatever. There. So that's synecdoche. Now let's check out some expressions, some examples. And as usual, you can leave your comments, but you can check the answers anyway in a few seconds. I'll read them to you, and then you can answer, you can write it down, and then check what I say. And after a few seconds, I'll give you some time. Number 1 is he would write, but his hours are as busy as bees in the sun. Okay, so he would write, but his hours are as busy as the sun. If you said if you thought that was a simile, then you are correct because of the words as here and as here. Right. My words are little jars for you to take and put upon a shelf. If you guessed that is a metaphor, it is a metaphor because it's kind of like a simile. It makes the comparison My words are little jars, but it's done more directly without the words like or as being used in the sentence or in the expression. Next, I'm getting paper. This was inspired by a song that I just recently heard, and I thought that it was fitting. I'm getting paper. If you thought that was synecdoche, then you are correct, because paper here is referring to money, and money is made out of paper, but not just paper. So we can, but it's not all that it is. We can refer to it as paper, as some people do, usually in rap songs. There you go. All around the house is the jet black night. It stares through the window pane. It crawls in the corners, hiding from the light. If your answer here is personification, then you are correct, because it here refers to jet black night, or the night at least. And it stares through the window pane. It crawls in the corners. You give it a person or an animal behavior or quality. Staring and crawling is not a quality that an inanimate object does. So there you go. You personify it by giving it something that only humans and animals or things that with life can do. Oh, never, if I live to 1,000,000, shall I feel such grievous pain. Right. So here, if you thought that this was a hyperbole, because if I live to 1,000,000 and people don't generally live to 1,000,000, then you are correct. So that is a hyperbole, because it's an exaggeration of living a life so long. Some people live to 100. And I think I read in the news that the oldest person in the world has just died. But yeah, so it can feel like 1,000,000 years, but actually it's not 1,000,000 years, because not even dinosaurs are alive anymore. But sharks are, and they've been around for 1,000,000 years. But that's a conversation for another time. But words are things, and a small drop of ink falling like dew upon a thought produces. Right. If you thought that this is a simile, then you are correct. If you thought that this is a metaphor, then you're also correct, because there's two of them. Words are things is your metaphor, and then falling like dew upon a thought produces, that is where it becomes a simile. I'm waiting for him to kick the bucket. Right. So this is not exactly, this is a figure of speech, and this is a cliche or an idiom that is being said by at least people who speak English. This means that someone, like, I'm waiting for him to die. To kick the bucket means to die. So when people say that they have a bucket list, it's actually coming from the expression kick the bucket. So you do things that you want to do before you die, before you kick the bucket. And that's where the bucket list comes from, which is a very great movie to watch. You should check it out. I'd rather take baths with a man-eating shark, or wrestle a lion alone in the dark, eat spinach and liver, pet 10 porcupines, then tackle the homework my teacher assigns, which is what many of my students feel about my homework. I'm said to give a lot of homework. Right. If you guess that that is a metaphor, then you are wrong, because it is a hyperbole. It's an overreaction or an overstatement of something, that you would rather take baths with a man-eating shark, wrestle a lion alone in the dark, eat spinach and liver, which some people do. I think they do here, at least in the Philippines where I'm from. Pet 10 porcupines, then tackle the homework my teacher assigns. That is a hyperbole, an exaggeration of not wanting to do something so much that you would rather be eaten or be in the risk of swimming with man-eating sharks. But that's not how sharks are. People should know more about sharks and understand that they're not what they're claimed to be by the movies and by the news. Just over-exaggerated. Anyway, splat. Splat is an onomatopoeia because it's the sound of something splattering or something solid turning into liquid, or like an explosion of something liquid, kind of, or yeah, solid that turns into liquid, like paint. When you throw it onto a wall, it splats. When you throw a tomato to a wall, it splats. When you throw sauce to the wall, it splats. Or if you drop spaghetti sauce on the floor. If your mom throws a wooden spoon at you and it has spaghetti sauce on it, then it's a splat. There's a splat. Bonnie bought a butter birthday cake and balloons are the birthday bash. I think that's for the birthday bash. I must have made a mistake there. Right, if you guessed that that is alliteration, then you are correct. And you got 10 out of 10 on this little quiz that we have at the end. All right, thank you so much for being here with me today. I hope that you learned something. You should try and leave expressions from your country that you generally use, because I love to learn them. I love learning languages, and I love learning weird expressions like the ones I told you earlier. Thank you for watching, and that's all from me, Teacher Sarah from Phuket Pals. Have a great day, and please don't forget to check out our website, www.phuketpals.org. Check out our Facebook and our Instagram, which is also Phuket Pals, and see you next time. Hello, this is Teacher Sarah from Phuket Pals. Welcome to another GED RLA screencast. The topic of this lesson is figurative language. If you find this video useful, please hit the subscribe button below. It helps us help more people like you. All right.